Welcome to partialarc.com. Don't do that.
I'm here to save the day. I'm here to save the day.
Soon I will be invincible. Because comics. Welcome to Because Comics. This is episode 38. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and I'm joined by my co-host, the jousting, Mike Christensen.
That's right, undefeated champion.
What is the animal that you ride when you joust? Because I hear it's unconventional.
It is a hyena.
Oh, wow.
I ride a hyena.
You're a hyena rider, one of the fabled.
Yes, well, infamous is really more accurate.
Well, because hyena riders are much like Highlanders. They have to kill other hyena riders, right?
They're also not street legal anywhere.
Not anymore?
They've never been street legal.
Ostriches, street legal.
I think
rhinos, street legal.
I think I've gone back, and that's the first law that anyone has ever come up with.
Of jousting?
And
No, just general?
Literally, it's universal. It's across every culture.
Like humans got together like, all right, before we get into law, before we get into agriculture, these hyena riders are out of control.
I drew this painting, man riding hyena, not okay. What's a hyena? We live in the grasslands of what will be eventually Illinois. I don't know. I saw it in a dream, and I know it's super illegal.
You heard it here first. Illinois, the birthplace of humanity.
No, everywhere, all across the world.
All across the world.
Everyone, all at once, woke up, and they were like, fire, good. Also, don't ride hyenas. It's illegal. It's the next scene in 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like, they throw the bone in the air, and they're like, don't ride hyenas. Not okay.
That's in the director's cut, right?
Not like that movie needs to be longer.
Man, we should probably talk about comics at some point. So, guys, we kick off each of our episodes with talking about our pulls, the comics that we're reading today,
or hyena conversations.
Damn it, I was so close to getting it back on track. So, guys, we'll kick things off. I'll talk about my pull for this episode. Is Welcome Back. Now, Welcome Back is a comic from Boom. It is written by Christopher Sebela and drawn by Jonathan Brandon Sawyer. And the comic Welcome Back is great. I mean, we review a lot of comics on here, but this one I've been especially excited to talk about. Mm-hmm. It's been out for a little while now. In fact, the second issue might be out at this point. But let me kind of dive into the premise of the story. Mm-hmm. It's called Welcome Back because the entire premise is it's our world as we know it. But apparently within our world, there's this secret societies out there that we don't know about. And particularly, there's these group of warriors that die and continually reincarnate consistently throughout history. So the comic actually opens with this beautifully drawn splash page of these two warriors. They show them pilgrim times, they show them in caveman times, during the revolution, during...
So it's all the places that Batman went.
All the places that... Really, this is just a connection to the Return of Batman, Return of Bruce Wayne. But yeah, so basically it's about these warriors, these two warriors, very specifically, not like different kinds. It just seems like one and another warrior that they are reincarnated and not into the same bodies. They are sometimes reincarnated as a guy, sometimes reincarnated as a woman, sometimes older, sometimes younger. But they always in their lives somehow find each other and must kill each other. The most interesting thing is, as soon as one kills the other one just kills themselves. They commit suicide so that they can both become reincarnated and continue the fight on forever.
Like murder avatars.
Yeah, basically murder avatars. And they just, each life, they somehow at some point awaken and realize, oh, I gotta go kill this other person. And
so because they live ordinary lives before that?
Yeah, they live ordinary lives.
They don't wake up and just start sharpening knives.
As babies, yeah, like, I'm gonna get them when I can learn how to walk. But like, no, they, at some point they awaken, and I think it's actually called The Awakening, and they just like, oh, I need to find this person, and they're typically drawn to each other and fight and kill each other and then continue this endless, deadly, murderous cycle. So this comic, we kind of start with this crazy introduction, and then we dip right into this young girl's life. Now, obviously, because of what you can understand by comics, this girl's probably involved in this never-ending war.
No, she's just
an ordinary girl.
Completely unrelated.
The comic just opens with this very high concept and just dives right into another story.
By the way, all this is happening. So this girl's having trouble at school, and that's the whole comic.
But it's following this girl. Her name's Mally Quinn, and Mally is this really great, complex character. And the comic, even though that it kicks off with this high concept, it actually does an amazing job of diving into this real girl's life. I think she's like 26 in the comic. Okay. She's dealing with boyfriend trouble. She's dealing with loan troubles, and she's dealing with emotional fallout from her family. There's this big thing that kind of opens up the story that you find out that Mally is kind of in hiding from people because her father was found out to be a serial killer.
Oh, okay.
Like a really bad serial. Well, there's really nice serial killers, but this is a really bad one,
It's a
guys.
weird statement that I was going to address.
Basically, she's kind of haunted by this, but she's kind of built up some armor to it. And I get into this because I want to give the writer and the artist some really good credit, because a lot of times comics with high concepts like this introduce ideas like this, but they're usually just like, oh yeah, they're having problems like you and me. Now back to the fighting and the superheroes and the cool lasers.
Did you say who the writer and artist are?
Yeah, the writer is Christopher Sebela, and the artist is Jonathan Brandon Sawyer. And usually they introduce these concepts and they overwhelm the story. That's what it's all about. It's about the costumes and the punching and the villains and things like that.
The problems are always like window dressing.
Right.
Yeah.
But this, they really dig into it.
Okay.
And to a certain point where I'm almost like, oh, I forgot this story is about like reincarnated Highlanders. And that's one thing that I really want to give this comic credit for. And just for that alone, I would recommend it to people. But guys, they have really cool mythos. I won't give the names in terms of like what some of these characters and warriors are, as they're just kind of unfolding it in this first issue. And it's really great. They really tease it out for you, but give you enough to really latch onto. And I have to say, after reading a lot of comics, and we read a lot of comics for this show, the very last page and one of the last panels of this first issue has one of the best, most exciting, crazy, bonkers moments.
Ooh, what is it?
That I won't say it.
Okay.
Even though I know I'm pretty bad about that stuff usually.
Less so this year.
Right. But it has this amazing, crazy hook, exciting moment that like I just closed the comic being like, I've got to read. I'm just in 100%. So guys, check out Welcome Back. It is a wonderful read. So Mike, what is your pull for this episode?
My pull is also a Boom Studios comic.
Ooh, Boom Central.
Boom's doing well
episode.
today, yeah. It is written by Kate Leth, who some people will actually know as a cartoonist. She does a lot of stuff on Tumblr. She does a series for Comics Alliance, but here she's the writer. Art is by Matt Cummings. It's called Power Up.
Ooh.
And the premise is this girl, again, just a 20-something. She's got a kind of crappy job at a pet store.
20-somethings are killing it these days in comics.
And, she's just like trying to do her life, and she's feeding the goldfish there, and she gets struck by lightning indoors. And
what?
then this creature comes in made of shadows and asks for powers, and turns out that she and the goldfish have superpowers.
Wait, no, hold on a second. Hold on. You said
yes.
that the goldfish has powers?
Yes.
Wait, so is there only one goldfish in this pet shop?
No, there's others, but there's only one goldfish that got struck by this weird beam.
Okay.
And the opening of the comic is the cosmos, and it opens with this narration that says, when they first looked up and began to chart the skies, they predicted, a star will die as another is born, and so will they be chosen. 4 warriors to champion us into a new age, a time of peace, of strength, of celebration. In the oldest language, by the wisest hands, it was written. Their math was a little off. So like that kind of sets the tone. It's like there's these weird cosmic things happening and like aliens and superpowers and things, but it's all a little off center of what you expect.
It's not like a perfect destiny mapping.
So there's a character, and I feel like I can describe him in a little more detail than I normally would because he is on the cover. There's a character who's a construction worker. He's a big burly guy and he's got a big beard, like lumberjack beard, and part of his power is that he gets a Sailor Moon style costume.
What?
But when it happens, when he transforms, it switches places with like his clothes. So wherever that costume was before, that's where his regular clothes are. So he has to like go back and be like, because it doesn't.
Wait, they explain this?
Yeah.
They actually.
Because then he can't just change it back. Like it only works one direction. He has to go change his clothes back out with the other ones.
Okay, where do his clothes go?
Wherever the costume was. So like if he stuffs it into a duffel and puts it in his trunk, his clothes are in the trunk of his car.
Okay, so the costume isn't like, because like Sailor Moon, it's always like moon magic or something like makes their costume, but it's an actual physical costume that sits
and he
somewhere.
switches places with it, but doesn't switch back. He has to go change his clothes back.
I like that.
So he has to like walk home from the superhero fight in a Sailor Moon style costume.
And he has this, I'm imagining like a Sailor Moon, like mostly Sailor Moon, but the top is like a lumberjack face with a giant beard.
I mean, he wears it well because it's like, it's form-fitting, but it's a tube top and a skirt and like knee-high stilettos.
That's amazing.
And like a moon tiara. And like
now, does the goldfish have an outfit as well?
No, only 2 of the characters have outfits. The main girl and the goldfish do not yet.
Okay.
The goldfish does turn into a tiny whale.
That's amazing. Its power is to become a slightly bigger fish.
And shoots lasers. Guys, read Power Up.
Oh my god.
It's so fun. It's
I
got
don't
a
think
real.
I need any more information.
It's what we enjoy. It's just, guys, you know us. Unless this is your first episode, in which case, welcome.
This is a really weird first impression.
This is about
Pretty par for the
on
course.
point.
Yeah, I guess.
This is what we like. Read Power Up. It's delightful.
It's going to be great. All right, guys. Well, those were our polls, and we'll dive into our main segment. Mike, kick things off.
Tales from the Crypt. Did you know that was a comic? It was a comic book. This is the oldest comic we've talked about on the show.
Really?
This comic came out in 1950. This is actually the first issue of Tales from the Crypt. It was an anthology series, sort of like Twilight Zone or something else, where a lot of stories within each issue, and it changes titles sometimes. I think the Crypt Keeper, who doesn't look like a decaying corpse, he just looks like an old man with a white hair.
Oh, really? So that kind of changed for the TV
I
movies?
mean, it might have changed as the comics went on. He might have just
Well, he just naturally got older.
He just
and he
decayed
just
and-
started becoming an actual skeleton.
decayed in real time. But it's one of those things where the title might change. This is actually interesting because we're actually going to give a bit of a backstory on comics and censorship. So
everybody strap in for a nice history
little
lesson.
history lesson before we actually get to the main segment. Comics used to be much more diverse. It wasn't all superhero stuff. It was more like what we're seeing now.
We're starting to see a resurgence of diversity.
Very much so. In the last 10, 20 years, we've really started seeing that come back more so in the last 5 with
Yeah, I would say the last 5
self-publishing.
years it's been crazy.
But it used to be a little more diverse. I mean, it wasn't diverse in the sense that there was any diversity inside the comics because they were all written by and starring white men.
Yeah.
Yeah, cisgender white men. But, that aside, there were a lot more Westerns and a lot more pulp stuff and a lot more horror. And that all ended in the 50s when some psychologists, I believe Dr. Wortham was one of them, Dr. Spock might have been one of them as well, no relation.
I had a very follow-up question to that.
But they wrote a lot of books about seduction of the innocent and sort of the corruption of the youth. One of the things they did was they asked kids in juvie, hey, what do you do? What do you read? What do you do in your downtime? They all read comics because all the kids read comics. That's not causality. It's just they drew a line to that. They cracked it open, and comics were a little more violence back then. There was not uncommon.
Really?
It was not uncommon to see a severed head on the cover of a horror comic.
Jeez.
Or see a nubile woman. Again, that didn't really change, but it was a little more salacious. So what happened was comics censored themselves. Comics set up what's called the Comics Code Authority, which you've heard of, I think most people have.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't a government agency. It was a self-censorship program.
Really?
Where they actually said, okay, we're going to make a list of things that are okay and what aren't. And it was things like no vampires, no werewolves, and things like that. That's why when Morbius the Living Vampire shows up in Spider-Man, he's not really a vampire.
He's not a vampire.
He's a
It's like
science
a weird,
vampire.
sciencey thing.
You can't have authority figures as antagonists or villains. But there was another factor for this. That was comics' way of shutting down EC Comics. Because EC's thing was horror comics. So what they essentially did, what they found a way to do was say...
was to cut out competition.
Basically exactly that. It was like, okay, superheroes are kind of a dying breed because after the war, weirdly, most superheroes kind of dropped off in popularity.
Interesting.
Mostly the ones that survived were Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, and kind of everyone else floundered or was shut out by the competition. There was a resurgence of horror, or maybe not a resurgence, but basically they were rising to the top because everything else was sort of dying out. And so they found a way, not, I don't think any particular company, just comics in general, found a way to develop this list of rules that completely shut down everything that EC Comics did because they had a lot of comics that were horror. It wasn't just Tales from the Crypt. It was shock suspense stories, crime suspense stories, The Haunt of Fear, The Vault of Fear. Horror was their jam, and they got shut down. So we're actually going to go back. We're going to look at one of these stories.
And this was pre-Comics Code, what we're
This is
looking at right
pre-Comics
now.
Code. Yeah, this is before they were shut down.
So this is the pure stuff, guys. Get ready.
This is from Tales from the Crypt number 20. The thing is, the credits pages weren't a thing yet. So we have a few people associated with the comic. I don't know who wrote this story particularly, but the people on this comic are Al Feldstein as an inker, penciler, and a writer, Graham Ingels as an inker and penciler, Jack Kamen as an inker and penciler, and Johnny Craig as the cover artist and an inker and a penciler. Again, there's a few stories in here.
A lot of ink, a lot of
So I don't know
pencil.
who did what. The story we're doing opens with the Crypt Keeper talking to you and saying, it's time for me to tell you. Again, he just looks like an old man with a candle. Basically, this is the segment, The Crypt Keeper's Tale, where he shares a story from the crypt, one that will make our blood run cold and our hair stand on end. He calls it The Thing from the Sea. And what's interesting is that it's written in second person.
Really?
Yeah, which never happens. And it says, you are on a crowded pier in New York trying to secure passage on the Ocean Queen bound for England. You, of course, are a white blonde man with a mustache.
Of
because
course,
of
like
course,
we all were back in the 50s.
we all were. This man, essentially, you, secure passage on this ship. The only room that you can get, though, you can have the room if you're not superstitious, is what the...
Is the room 131313?
It's stateroom 13. You pay the fee and board the ship. And not a moment too soon, for as you reach the top of the gangplank, and they all cast off, and everyone says their goodbyes, and there's all that ticker tape that comes off of yachts.
People are handing out confetti to throw at each other.
Essentially, yeah. All ashore that's going ashore.
God, we had so much confetti back in the 50s.
It was a glut at that point. You watch as the dock slips away, the little tugs straining and pushing the great liner out into the midstream, and your stuff is taken to room 13, and as you tell the man who's carrying your bags, room 13, the color drains from the steward's cheeks. His eyes fill with horror as he stares at you. Why, what seems to be the trouble, steward? That's you. That's what you sound like.
Oh, cool.
Nothing, sir. Nothing. Yeah, that's believable.
Yeah.
He does, when he checks you into your room, check to see that the porthole is securely bolted, then edges towards the door, but you stop him and you say, "What is it, old man?" He does not look that old, so that just seems disrespectful.
Yeah.
Unless it was like, "What is it, old man, old bean? Are you British?"
We're British now.
I feel like we might be British.
Yeah, I think we're British. Let's recount this.
"What is it, old man? What is there about this cabin that frightens you?" And he says, "I don't know, but only this. No one who has ever been assigned this cabin has completed his crossing in it. Someone frightens them into leaving it. Why one passenger even went mad from what he saw in here."
Now, that's interesting because they still rent that room out. But, okay, after a few complaints, you check it out. After every single passenger doesn't stay in your room, you close that room down.
Well, look, we don't know how long this ship's been sailing. It might be the fourth voyage.
Yeah.
4 times is a pattern, yes, and that's a problem, but it is not yet enough to, like...
I mean, when a room is 100% evacuated, 100% of the time.
I would go with the madness.
Maybe put some mops in there. Don't rent it out.
The madness would be the one where I would say, nope, we're not renting room 13 anymore.
Yeah.
The steward mumbles something about ghosts and slips from your grasp. That is the caption.
Again.
I love that caption.
Again, I would grab that man and be like, hold on a second.
You watch.
You can't say things like this and then just wander out of here.
You watch as he hurries down the corridor, and then you close the door. Ghosts. Bah, he's probably playing a trick on me. Suggestion and stuff. You stow your belongings in your assigned berth. That's a bunk. And survey the cabin. It is small, with 1 porthole and the 2 berths. I wonder who has the upper. And you meet your roommate, who's also just a dude.
Was he in there the whole time?
No,
the shady guy was checking the windows?
He comes in after dinner, and you both go to bed. You've both heard the same stories, or people mumbling about ghosts and them walking away from you, I guess.
Is that a consistent thing on this boat? Like your server, the people that open doors, they all just mumble something about ghosts and then walk away?
Yeah, but basically you both think, well, I'm sure it's fine. Good night.
You know how most people react when they encounter these situations.
I mean, yes.
Yeah, people went crazy in here. Ghosts. Well, gotta go.
Also, when that guy said it, in the panel, he doesn't have irises.
Wait, what?
I think it's just an effect to unsettle us, but in that panel, he has just white eyes.
God.
And he's got this contorted face. Trust us, guys, it's in the show notes. You don't know how long you've been asleep. Only, suddenly your eyes are open. Your stateroom smells strange. The peculiar smell of dampness, stale seawater. And you are cold, a gush of air coming from the open porthole. Blast! The porthole is open! I'd better close it, or risk a nasty cold! You get up and stumble to the porthole in the darkness. The bolts have been loosened, and the fine spray from the sea wets your face. You slam it shut, bolting it tightly, and then, from the berth above yours, comes a blood-curdling cry. Your roommate starts screaming.
Oh no! Our roommate, our unnamed roommate.
The bald guy.
Ah, the bald guy.
With a single leap, your roommate springs from his berth to the floor and dashes wildly towards the stateroom door. What is it? What's wrong? No. And he runs away. You listen to his footsteps running full speed down the corridor. Poor old boy, probably seasick. That's not him talking, by the way. That's the caption.
That's what the caption says? So the caption makes the comment like he was there.
Yeah.
The captioner says this.
Yes.
Who I guess is the Crypt Keeper?
Yeah, I guess it is.
Which the Crypt Keeper knows what's going on, but still makes that comment like he doesn't know.
It's making it as if like, oh, this is what you're thinking, basically.
Very strange.
You shut the door.
So again, we are, because we are you.
Yeah.
We're just like...
Go ahead.
We're like, this is totally fine.
Well, here's what you do. You shut the door and grope your way back to your berth.
You grope your way back to your berth?
It's dark.
The 50s were weird.
Your eyes close and you sleep again.
Okay.
You do hear a moaning during the night, and you do think, not a very good sailor. Poor chap. Listen to him moan. I guess he just assumes someone is seasick.
There's a lot of sick people on this boat.
In more ways than one might assume.
Ooh.
The next morning, the sun streaming through the porthole awakens you, and you dress quickly. I don't know why you need to dress quickly, but you just, it's an unnecessary qualifier.
You gotta hang out with those servers and hear what they've got to say about ghosts.
The curtains of the upper berth are drawn. You leave without disturbing your roommates. Probably isn't the mood for breakfast anyway. You think that. You don't say it out loud. That'd be rude. On deck, the ship's doctor stops you. I wonder if you can tell me what happened last night. We found your roommate cowering in a passage, babbling like an idiot. What? You mean he didn't come back to the stateroom? No, we have him in the ship's hospital. I've just made this guy progressively more British.
Great.
He's suffering from shock. Can you tell me what he saw that might have caused it?
Is this Winston Churchill that he ran into on the boat?
I'm just going to start drawing him better. Look, I have a large cabin. Why don't you bring your things over there and spend the rest of the trip with me?
Hey, look, if you can spend the rest of the trip with Winston Churchill, there's a lot of things you can learn from this man.
He looks nothing like... We should establish he looks nothing like Winston Churchill.
This is 100% canonically Winston Churchill.
Oh, really, Doctor? Are you inferring that the rumors about Stateroom 13 are true? You laugh, refusing the doctor's invitation. Maybe because it was completely inappropriate for him to invite you into his cabin.
Yeah, probably
Maybe that's
very
why.
inappropriate. You just met this guy.
It is the 50s. We're not okay with that yet. You spend the day relaxing in your deck chair, swimming in the ship's pool, and playing Costanza in the game room after dinner.
Ooh, Costanza.
It's very 1950. It is very late when you return to your room. Ho-hum! Gad, I'm tired.
Gad, I'm tired?
Yep. That berth certainly looks inviting. So he gets in his berth.
This guy lives a joyous life.
The upper curtain, by the way, is still closed.
He still hasn't checked on the mysterious place where he knows his roommate is not in.
Yeah.
Okay.
You check the porthole to see that it is securely bolted. Wait, nope.
Now, okay, wow.
Crypt
Now
Keeper's not
everybody
British.
is becoming British. That's the real horror of this story. The undertone is that everyone slowly turns British.
You check the porthole to see that it is securely bolted, and then you stretch out on your berth. You lay awake, thinking about the agonizing scream of your roommate the night before when, what the porthole is open again, and whew, that smell of seawater and decay. You get up and close it. You are frightened. Just, you have to be told that, I guess.
Okay.
You're
You're finally frightened. It took the smell of seawater and decay to get you
In
there.
case you didn't know, you're frightened now. Be frightened.
Oh, okay.
You distinctly remember checking it before you went to bed. You tighten the bolts with all of your strength.
So this is what freaks him out? An open window is where everything doesn't line up for him? The ghost talk, the guy not being in his bed, a doctor telling him to leave his room, but it's the unhinged window that unsettles him?
Jay, you don't understand. You tighten the bolts with all of your strength.
I forgot. That's right. He did tighten all those bolts.
I guess he's doing that
Wait,
now.
how is he tightening the bolts with his... He used his fingers to tighten metal bolts in the wall?
And stand there for a while, staring out at the sea. Suddenly, what's that? A moan coming from the upper berth.
What's in that upper berth, Mike?
Well, you spring to the berth and tear the curtains apart, thrusting your hand in.
Whoa!
To discover if there is anyone there. That nauseating smell of stagnant seawater.
Let me dive at it aggressively and see if I can figure it out.
You take hold of something cold and wet. Icy cold, something like a man's arm, and as you pull, the creature hurls itself from the berth, a clammy, oozy mass.
Oh, goodness.
It looks like Swamp Thing, basically.
Really?
It kind of
Swamp
looks like
Thing's your
Swamp
roommate?
Thing.
That's pretty exciting.
Well, no. I mean, yes, it's exciting in the sense that it's horrifying.
Right.
In an instant, the horrible monstrosity has darted out of the stateroom door. Good lord. So that's what it is. I'll follow it. Actually, it doesn't look like Swamp Thing. It looks like a Scooby-Doo monster.
Really?
Let me say, he looks like a dude wearing vines.
A rubber suit,
Yeah,
basically.
essentially.
You know why he ran out of the room is because he was having a nice sleep until a British man thrusted his arm into his bed covers.
And dragged him out.
Yeah, he was like, well, I guess I'll leave then.
Yeah. You chase the dark shadow through the dimly lit passage and up to the companionway. Blasted thing, It's getting away. Why are you running after it?
Why is he chasing this thing down?
You watch as it seems to go over the rail and into the sea. I must be dreaming. That cursed meal tonight, it didn't agree with me.
This guy, man.
You're not very bright. You cannot return to that horrible room, so you walk the deck, finally curling up in a deck chair under a steamer blanket to sleep a dreamless sleep. The morning sun blinds you as you are shaken awake. Oh, it is you, Captain. I need to find another British voice. What's a good British voice? Michael Caine, maybe? I went to your stateroom. You weren't there. Is there anything wrong?
Man, I love the Michael Caine's in this comic.
This guy actually looks a little more like Winston Churchill. Not a lot, but a little more.
Look, we know Winston Churchill is the Doctor, okay?
Well, frankly, Captain, there is something very horrible happened in my stateroom last night. It must have been my imagination, but, well, why don't we let you fix up in the officers' quarters for the remainder of the trip? Look here, Captain. Can't we get to the bottom of this? There must be a logical explanation. You are right, sir. Only, what can I do? I'm inclined to board up the room.
Finally, you know what? This guy is taking action. I respect this captain quite a bit. You know what, Michael Caine? Good thinking.
Thank you, sir. That will solve nothing. Perhaps it is only a stowaway trying to frighten people out of the boardroom so he can spend the remainder of the trip in comfort. A maniac, perhaps. That thought has never occurred to me. You might be right. Tonight I will stand watch with you. If he shows his face, we'll be able to overpower him together.
You know what? I give it to this guy. He is creating quite an adventure for himself. He now has the captain in his room to hunt a vine monster.
And you, the guy, says, "Good, Captain. I'm glad you are taking a more realistic attitude than your superstitious crew." You are relieved that you will not have to spend another night alone in that accursed stateroom. Together with the captain, tonight you may solve this baffling problem. Not your problem, by the way.
Yeah, not really. No, just leave the room. They'll board it up like the captain suggested.
Like, this is the guy who's like, oh, somebody didn't flush in the bathroom in this public restaurant. I might as well take care of that. Oh, it's clogged. Well, let me just grab the plunger then. Like, there's people for that.
Yeah.
Like, you do not have to, that is not your job.
No, not at all.
Oh,
in fact, I'm pretty sure you paid to be in a comfortable room on a cruise ship. Why is your job now to hunt vine monsters?
To be fair, I guess it's the only room left, but like, you've been offered other opportunities.
Yeah, I'm sure you could sleep in like the captain's quarters, maybe?
Like, hang out in the infirmary with your roommate, keep him company. What's that dude's story?
Yeah, you gotta maybe investigate this guy a little bit more.
You did not interview him at all.
Man, poor detective.
We see the boat and we hear them talking. See you then at about 10. Yes, stateroom 13. I don't know which one's saying which. I just made a judgment call.
Sounds good.
Your day is spent anxiously, and towards evening, you find yourself becoming nervous. Finally, it is 10 o'clock, and you make your way down to the stateroom. Ah, Captain, right on time, I see. Let's go in. You check the porthole and make sure that it is tightly bolted.
Because we know that's worked so many times before.
I'll sit here on the berth. Why don't you sit there on my valise?
Valise?
I don't know.
Do we want to Google what this is?
Not especially.
Sounds good.
Good now. Shall we turn out the light? Boy, he got Australian. I'm just going to leave it.
Okay. These accents have gone completely off the rails.
I am not an actor. The room is dark. Only the hum of the engines is heard far below, and the muffled roar of the sea outside. Suddenly, the porthole swings open.
Whoa.
You rush to the porthole and slam it shut. Some strange force seems to resist you. Here we go, Captain. Things are beginning to pop. Meanwhile, we see the captain looking at the other berth, which opens and the creature emerges and the captain screams. You spin around. The horrible creature of last night is rising out of the top berth. The captain is shrinking back. That's it, Captain. Did you need to clarify? Did you really need to? What? Did you think he wasn't sure?
Thank God I wasn't sure that was the monster we were looking for.
Oh no, that's just Reggie. You know,
he hangs out in here sometimes.
My pet sea monster. That's a thing.
I feel like I should have told you about Reggie earlier.
Instead, what the captain says is, no, it can't be you. You're dead. I murdered you.
Whoa. I am loving where this British boat tale has gone.
I killed you right there in that berth. Pushed you right out the porthole. So you didn't kill him in the berth.
Yeah, wait, okay.
Oh, no, I guess you killed him and then you pushed his body out the berth.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, information, 1, the captain should maybe keep to himself. 2, if he wasn't going to keep to himself, maybe share it with the guy.
3, did you not make the connection?
Yeah, like how did he not think about that before? It's like, well, what's happened in this room? I mean, it's a fairly new boat. So, I did kill that one guy in here and push him out of a portal.
Everyone else since then has been terrified of specters.
And making claims about it.
And one guy went mad. I bet that's nothing.
I bet it has nothing to do with that.
They stopped running it out. That solved the problem, I guess.
They didn't though. They rented it to him.
Well, only because he was desperate, because that was the only room left.
Irresponsible, I guess. Well, everybody in here, this is not only
Jay, this
a
is
murder scene, but this is also
This
a
is
room
a
that drives people
murderer.
mad.
Maybe he's not the most responsible
You know
person.
what? Actually, most of this comes together when you posit it that way. This captain's just insane. I mean, he did kill a guy in here and
Yeah.
push him out of a porthole.
We don't know why.
Yeah.
Horrified, you watch. The captain slumps to the floor, white as chalk. Then, just because he's just dead. Then,
Just instantly died?
then, satisfied, the creature turns and hurls itself out of the portal.
I don't know why, but I imagine that like cartoon thing from like Blue's Clues,
Yeah.
like if blues can too, we can too, and he like jumps out the portal, like shaking his arms as he does it. It's just like, what?
The captain is dead, literally frightened to death.
Wow.
And as you turn to look after the thing, you are astounded to see the portal is closed and bolted.
And poorly, this British man is going to be blamed for murder. I mean, he's definitely not going to get out of this by saying a sea monster killed this captain.
And then the crypt keeper brings us home by saying, and that's the story, dear reader. The captain received the shock of a lifetime, eh? I'm making him British too.
Yeah, yep. I mean, finally.
Well, he should have realized you can't get away with murder, not even at sea, not on your own ship. Oh, by the way, if you ever really sail the Ocean Queen, ask for stateroom 13. Tell him I sent ya.
Oh, Crypt Keeper.
Murder.
Tales from the Crypt. What a terrifying tale.
By the way-
of silly British men and their silly adventures on boats.
A postscript to the story of EC Comics. When they couldn't publish horror anymore, it forced them to focus on their humor magazine, Mad.
Whoa, really?
They are the publishers of Mad Magazine.
So the Comics Code Authority essentially created Mad Magazine.
I think it existed, so
Their true work of horror.
it was like right before.
Mad Magazine. Wow. All right, well, that was an amazing main segment. And that'll take us into our game, Would You Rather? All right, guys, this is our game, Would You Rather. It's a spin on regular Would You Rather, just throwing in a little bit of a comic flavor. So basically, I will present two options, and Mike and I will have to decide which one we would rather do. So, for
Now,
this...
can we have different answers? We haven't addressed that.
You know, we can, just because in our last Would You Rather, I would much rather be a henchman for Batman, while you would rather hench for Lex Luthor.
Yes. Also, that was not the scenario that you presented.
I know.
That was the subsequent.
That was the subsequent one that came of it, but I still believe Batman would be better, just because
Well,
I can't see any other
you
way it would
lost
be.
the argument, though. I think that's really what I'd like to do.
Look,
is
some people believe I lost it, and some people, tons of people, in fact, think I totally won that argument, Mike.
Can we prove that, guys?
Because
comics
What?
at gmail.com.
No, we can't. No, we'll never will. Anyways, the Would You Rather for this episode is, as a supervillain, would you rather fight the Justice League or the Avengers?
Interesting.
Now, let's look at the different villains. Now, some
Yeah.
of them in Marvel are pretty well off. Dr. Doom is a dictator of an entire country.
I think I would rather fight the Avengers.
Really?
If you're fighting the Justice League, you are fighting a team of powerhouses. You are fighting Batman. First of all, doesn't lose unless
He just
it's
does it,
his,
yeah.
unless it's his comic and it's interesting for the story. Superman is like let's just call him a god. I guess I don't know.
I mean, Superman's a god.
DC wants us to think that. They've driven that message home pretty
Oh,
heavily.
yeah.
Wonder Woman, even more so, literally.
But the other thing is they're restricted a bit by morality, while the Avengers are not as restricted
well,
as heavily.
I would make that the argument that they are restricted by morality because they have Captain America, who is there to keep them in line. Now, if you're talking about the new Avengers, you have people like Luke Cage, who's not a murderer, but he's a little more rough around the edges. You have Wolverine,
But even
who's
Thor,
a murderer.
Thor will like hit you with a hammer that can like destroy mountains.
Yes, but he's only going to hit you with it if he thinks you can take it. The Avengers, I think you can face them because they are more likely to be torn apart from the inside by their own internal conflicts. Like, you are more likely presenting a external metaphor for what they're going through internally because you are in a Marvel comic, and that's how they work. The format of the Justice League is like you have the founding Justice League members or whoever's in charge, and it's very democratic, but like they don't really hang out and like complain or have inner relationships that go awry. I mean, they do a little bit, but like the Avengers, there's a lot more precedent for like hanging out and like just
It's true. Avengers is much more like they treat it like family, like that they have to see. While Justice League, it's more like a job. They're just like, well, we're all here in the Watchtower on time. You're on duty for this time, and I'm going to go investigate this planet. Like, it's much more like a job than the Avengers.
And because of that, you're more likely to be able to exploit the foibles of the Marvel characters.
That's true.
Marvel characters also have a lot of foibles. Also, there's a decent chance that you're like one of their fathers or something. That's true in both, really. That's really true of both.
I still think pound for pound, I'd rather fight the Justice League just because I think they have a little bit more control on their team dynamic. Because that's the one thing you were saying. Because
interesting.
When you look at their team dynamic and how they fight, Destruction tends to follow the Avengers a lot more easily than it does the Justice League.
We're talking about that wild card new member. That might turn south on you.
Exactly. Like the Justice League, they've got a pretty tight crew.
Oh, shoot. You could be that moment at the beginning of like Children's Crusade or whatever where like, oh crap, we didn't realize how much power this character had.
Yeah.
Oh no, he lobotomized that villain and like we didn't even realize it.
Exactly. While Justice League, like I said, it's like a job. You have to go through like a long interview process to even be at the table. It took Cyborg forever to make it to Justice League for a while.
Yeah.
Pretty much every member that has permanent status there had to go through probably, I don't even know what those exams are like with Batman, but they've got to be intense.
Well,
while Avengers is sometimes...
It may not be an exam, but it's a screening process. They're going to do their homework.
While Avengers sometimes it's like, oh, this person has the power of a universe in them. Maybe we should have them on our roster.
That is what they do.
And it's like, guys, maybe vet out the universe god a little bit more before you invite him on your super team.
That's all they do. They let the Vision join him, and they knew he was built by Ultron.
And he had an Infinity Stone in his head.
Well,
like,
that's a movie.
That's the movie. But still, yes, he was built by Ultron. They did not do any further vetting. Like, the Avengers very quickly accept people to their team. And like you said, they had these inner fightings. And a lot of times these inner fightings, example Scarlet Witch, leads to a lot of catastrophes.
Yeah.
While Justice League is pretty coordinated. Like, if they're going to take me down if I'm a supervillain, I know I'm probably going to get knocked around with, like, Green Lantern's lasers and punches and things. I'm going to get gassed. Superman's not going to use his crazy powers on me unless I'm some kind of dark side level villain.
In which case you can take it.
Exactly. And they're just going to wrap me up and take me off to local jail, and maybe I work for Lex Luthor and I'll get bailed out anyway. So in that situation, I know it's going to be a little bit safer. It's more of like it's more of like how we describe with henchmen. It's like a job. While in Avengers, you have no idea what's going to be coming at you that day. Who knows who's on staff that time?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think you're right. We have to give it to the Justice League because the Avengers are a little too unpredictable.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't know
what's going to be coming at you. If the Sentry might just lose his mind that day.
God damn it, I forgot. You're right.
The Sentry.
No, that's all you need to say.
Yeah,
that's
he's
literally
an insane. He's an insane person with more power than Superman, and he's an Avenger.
He was a schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Paranoid. He was a paranoid schizophrenic with multiple personality disorder who was listed as having the power of 1,000 exploding suns.
Yeah, like you don't want that guy showing up when you're pulling off a random crime.
He was his own supervillain as well, so like he was way over the line.
Oh yeah, it's real bad. So I think unanimously we can say the Justice League would probably be the better one to fight.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so that's our definitive answer. We would much rather fight the Justice League. And that was our episode 38 of Because Comics. We'll be posting a new episode every other week. If you'd like to download more episodes or check out other similar podcasts, head over to partialarc.com. That's ARC with a C. Of course, you can email us any questions at becausecomics@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter and Instagram @partialarc.
Let us know who you think won.
Yeah, if we were wrong, if you've got some better points about Avengers, please let us know.
I don't want to know that. I just want to know who won.
Yeah, who won? And be sure to check out more content from our comic boy wonder, Mike Christensen.
Hey, it's me.
At partialarc.com, where he writes articles every Tuesday and Thursday.
That's true.
Thanks for listening, and remember,
Clifford the Big Red Dog is definitely a kaiju.
What?
Let's examine him. Really? Like, let's think. That dude is a kaiju.
Because comics.